Multilingualism is becoming more and more common around the world, possibly as an effect of globalization and the need to be able to network with people from different areas. Bilinguals make up 43% of the world's population, a greater percentage than the 40% of monolinguals. Trilinguals make up 13% of the world's population. Considering the statistics, it is relevant to investigate whether there are structural changes and differences in the brain between bilinguals and monolinguals. There are several researchers investigating the difference between the two groups. This video will be exploring the research conducted by Mechelli et al. In 2004. These researchers aim to investigate the difference between the brains of bilinguals and monolinguals, but also whether there was a difference between the brain gray matter of early bilinguals and late bilinguals. The researchers used purposive sampling to recruit their participants. All participants were healthy and right-handed individuals, which reflects a majority of the population and also allows to control for hemispheric dominance in investigating the structural differences. Language, as we learned before, is lateralized to the left hemisphere in right-handed individuals. 25 monolinguals were compared to 25 early bilinguals and 33 late bilinguals. The early bilinguals had to have learned a second European language before the age of 5, and the late bilinguals learned a second European language between the age of 10 to 15 years, and they were expected to have been practicing it regularly for at least 5 years. All participants were native English speakers and comparable for age and level of education. This research was a quasi-experiment, as being monolingual or bilingual was not controlled by the researcher, but rather was a variable within the participant. Since they were comparing between monolinguals and bilinguals, but also within bilinguals who had acquired the second language at different ages, this research design is of a mixed measures design. MRI scans were administered on all participants, and a voxel-based morphometry was used to analyze the gray matter density. The scans revealed that there was greater gray matter density in the inferior parietal cortex in bilinguals, and that this was more significant in the left hemisphere. You must be wondering, wait a minute. We learned previously that the Wernicke's area and the Broca's area were responsible for language. So what is this third area, and why is it that increased in gray matter and not the other two areas? For many years, psychologists' understanding of how the brain processes language was rather simple. They believed that the Wernicke's area interpreted the words that we heard or read, then relayed this information via a dense bundle of fibers to the Broca's area, which then generated any words that we spoke in response. But subsequent experiments with brain imaging techniques have revealed the existence of a third region of the brain that is also responsible for language. This region is the inferior parietal lobe, also known as the Geschwin's territory. The inferior parietal lobe of the left hemisphere lies at a key location in the brain, at the junction of the auditory, visual, and somatosensory cortexes, with which it is massively connected. In addition, the neurons in the lobe have the particularity of being multimodal, which means that they can process different kinds of stimuli simultaneously. This is including the auditory, visual, and sensory motor stimulus that the body is constantly exposed to. This combination of traits makes the inferior parietal lobe an ideal candidate for apprehending the multiple properties of spoken and written words, their sound, their appearance, and their functions. Going back to the research and its finding, there were commonalities in the gray matter density of early and late bilinguals, but the effect was greater in early bilinguals. This basically suggests that when comparing the two groups of bilinguals to the monolinguals, there wasn't too large a difference, although there was one that was significant enough. An extension of this research also found that the second language proficiency was positively correlated with gray matter density in the same area, but this was then negatively correlated with the age of acquisition. Let's say John learned German, a second language, before the age of 5, and Jordan learned German at the age of 12. If we were to give them both a test in German language proficiency, and both of them scored the same, John, who learned German at the age of 5, would still have increased gray matter density when compared to Jordan, who learned it at the age of 12. So although they have the same language proficiency because they learned it at different ages, there would still be a difference in the gray matter density, with the people who learn it early on in life having greater gray matter density when compared to late bilinguals. We know that a child's brain has the most neuronal connections between the age of 5 to around 9 when it starts pruning. This could be one possible reason for the increased proficiency in second language when learning a language early on in life. The brain is better equipped to learn when there is an abundance of neurons and connections in early childhood. I hope this video was helpful in understanding the difference between the brains of bilinguals and monolinguals, and also understanding that language is not just localized to the Broca's area and the Vernix area. There is a lot of research suggesting that being bilingual has a positive impact in an individual's development. For example, it reduces one's susceptibility to dementia as we grow old.